The ship floated silently in the harbor, its massive engine dead. Teams of experts had tried everything, but each attempt ended in failure. Time was running out, and the admiral knew that without power, disaster loomed. Yet, in the darkest hour, a call was made. A veteran no one expected was summoned. He carried no fancy tools, no team behind him, only experience carved from years at sea. What he did next left seasoned engineers stunned, and revealed a truth the Navy had nearly forgotten. It was supposed to be a routine mission. The Navy's pride, a colossal ship built to withstand storms and wars, was docked for final checks before deployment. Inside its heart, the engine, a masterpiece of engineering, refused to start. Day after day, experts crowded the engine room, manuals open, tools scattered, sweat pouring under the steel lights. Every fix they attempted only deepened the mystery. The admiral, known for his steady command, watched the frustration grow. Each failed attempt was not just a technical setback, it was a humiliation. The ship wasn't just any vessel. It was a symbol of strength, and now it stood lifeless, its silence heavier than cannon fire. But here's the part that unsettled everyone: the deadline. In less than a week, the ship was due to sail on a critical assignment. Without it, the mission and the Navy's reputation would be crippled. Tension rippled through every corridor. And then came the whisper, a suggestion so unusual that some laughed at it. A retired Navy veteran, long gone from active duty, might hold the key. Why him? Why now? No one knew for sure. But as desperation tightened its grip, one truth became undeniable. They were running out of time, and only one man remained untested. The decision was made quietly at first. A messenger was sent to track down the retired veteran, a man whose name still carried weight among those who had served decades earlier. He wasn't a man of wealth or status, but his reputation for solving the unsolvable clung to him like salt on the sea air. When he finally walked into the dockyard, heads turned. His uniform was long retired, but his presence was undeniable. The engineers, still buried in diagrams and endless debates, looked up with skepticism. Could one man succeed where entire teams had failed? Tools clattered on the floor, and someone muttered, "This is madness." But no one dared to challenge the admiral's order. The veteran was given space, though more out of courtesy than belief. He stepped into the engine room and paused. His eyes moved slowly across the vast machinery, every bolt and pipe illuminated under the humming lights. Unlike the others, he didn't rush to grab a wrench or check a manual. Instead, he listened. The silence of the ship wasn't just absence, it was a language, and he understood it. In that stillness, he noticed something the others had missed: a faint vibration that didn't belong. Hours passed, and while experts grew restless, he traced that vibration with steady hands. He tapped pipes, adjusted valves, and finally climbed deep into the machinery, where most hadn't dared to go. "What's he doing down there?" one whispered. No one could answer. The veteran seemed to be chasing ghosts in the metal. Just as the sun dipped beyond the harbor, he stopped abruptly. His expression shifted, a spark of recognition in his eyes. The problem wasn't in the grand, complex systems that the experts obsessed over. It was hidden in a single overlooked part, small enough to be dismissed but critical enough to stop the giant. The room fell silent as he began to dismantle that piece with careful precision. Every movement carried the weight of decades at sea, sharper than the guesses of those around him. The engineers leaned forward, unwillingly drawn into the unfolding mystery. And then came the moment none could ignore. He held the faulty part in his hand, a small, nearly invisible flaw that had crippled the engine. The truth was both embarrassing and extraordinary. Something so simple had defeated the finest minds, yet this one man had seen it. But even with the piece revealed, no one yet knew whether the ship could truly live again. The engine room was packed now. Officers, engineers, and sailors pressed shoulder to shoulder, their eyes fixed on the veteran. The faulty part had been replaced, yet the air remained thick with doubt. Could decades of experience truly succeed where modern science had failed? The veteran moved slowly, deliberately, as though he were communing with the machine itself. His hand rested on the lever, and for a moment, no one breathed. The admiral gave a nod. With a sharp pull, the system roared to life, then coughed, sputtered, and fell silent again. A wave of disappointment swept through the crowd. Someone whispered, "It's over," but the veteran didn't flinch. He closed his eyes as if listening once more, then adjusted a small valve no one else had touched. The silence stretched so long that every tick of the clock felt like thunder. Was this the end of the ship, or the start of its revival? And then it happened. A deep rumble shook the floor, low and steady at first, then growing stronger, louder, until the steel walls vibrated with raw power. Steam hissed, gears turned, and the massive engine surged back to life. The sound wasn't just mechanical. It was alive, like a heartbeat returning after flatline. Gasps filled the room. Engineers stared in disbelief, unable to comprehend how such a simple correction had undone their weeks of failure. The admiral stood tall, pride flickering in his stern eyes, but even he seemed humbled. For in that moment, it wasn't only a ship that had been saved. It was a reminder of something greater. The engine's steady rhythm echoed through the ship, a sound so powerful it seemed to roll across the harbor. For those gathered in the engine room, it was more than mechanics. It was victory, relief, and a lesson none would forget. The ship was alive again, ready to fulfill its duty. The admiral walked forward, his eyes fixed on the veteran who stood quietly by the machinery. No celebration, no boast, just calm satisfaction. He hadn't come to prove the experts wrong. He had come to remind them of something they had overlooked. Wisdom drawn from experience, not just theories on paper. The truth stung. How had the brightest minds missed what one retired sailor had seen? The answer was clear: knowledge without humility can blind even the best. Word spread quickly beyond the dockyard. Officers spoke of it with awe, engineers with shame, and sailors with gratitude. The ship's resurrection was more than a technical fix. It was a story of respect for those who had walked the path before, those who carried scars and instincts that books could never teach. And yet, as the veteran left the harbor that evening, one question remained unspoken in every heart. How many more lessons would be lost if voices like his were ignored? The ship sailed days later, its mission restored, its reputation intact. But for the men and women who had stood in that engine room, the moment lived on. It wasn't just about an engine or a ship. It was about recognizing the value of experience in a world that often forgets it. And so, the story closes not with triumph alone, but with a reminder. Sometimes, the greatest solutions come not from new ideas, but from the wisdom of those who have already weathered the storm.